I've been working on the rockcrawler, as you can see here. Good news is this thing's sitting on its own tires. That's a good thing. The bad news is I've been struggling in the worst way to get it to fire up. When I first went to fire it up, the Spider fuel injection system poured fuel straight down the intake. I'm trying to find the old one. I got it sitting around here. This is what they look like, and that's why they call it the Spider intake. Basically, the injector plugs go right here, and it has little injectors that go to each of the cylinders. Very old school, is in between the Vortec throttle body injection and LS phase. And basically what happened is this little guy right here, it's let's see if I can get that. It's a pressure regulating valve, this little spout right there. That thing just poured straight fuel as soon as I turned my fuel pump on, straight into the intake. Just completely hydro locked the motor as I go to crank it over. So I start pulling spark plugs to see if they're getting any fuel or not, and half a gallon of fuel comes out, or who knows how much comes out of each cylinder, and just dumps all over the floor. So I'm like, are you kidding me, you know? So I tear that all apart. I go get a new one of those systems, as I've installed right here in this mess. I go to install that, and I try to get that going. Still to no avail. So I figure I've got a timing issue. Something is going on. So I end up going and buying a new distributor and get a whole new distributor. Let's try that. At the same time, because I just replaced that injection anyway, still won't fire. Isn't cranking over very well. So I continue to check, and I'm checking the distributor pointer at where it's pointed at when the motor's actually at top dead center. And I've been getting conflicting information on my harmonic balancer versus what it actually says on the inside of the gear. So I pull off the entire cover and the harmonic balancer and all that and look, and I wasn't actually at top dead center of piston 1. So I pull all that apart, verify with the screwdriver, and with my finger I'm on the compression stroke, and get it set at top dead center number 1. I now have the distributor set as well, so I'm gonna go from there, see if that fires. So I've been fighting this thing like crazy all weekend. Oh gosh, what an ordeal. By the way, I'm not gonna leave the intake sticking up like that. I'm just testing stuff right now. Turns out the instructions I found online for setting the timing on this were confusing me. And what I had to do was pull the timing cover and actually look at the crank sprocket, and the same with the cam one, and then actually stick a screwdriver in to just verify that I was on top dead center of piston 1. The notch on the outside timing cover led me astray. And I don't know, maybe that timing cover was from a different year. You know, maybe I don't know. So that was giving me a hard time. Now that wasn't the problem for the fuel flooding the engine and doing all that. But I got a mess here. I got everything all taken apart. The whole front of the engine's still off. I'm gonna have to put all that stuff back on. But I do have good news. After all that mess, it's finally alive. It's a fair bit noisier than I thought it was going to be. That giant muffler I put on, which is way bigger than I have on that V8, is very noisy, by the way. So I was a little disappointed by that. I thought that massive muffler would be a lot quieter, but man, thing sounds like it doesn't even have a muffler. It sounds like a straight pipe. But yeah. Well, I'm happy about that. Just got a little smoke rolling off some stuff that's getting warm for the first time, so it had oil and everything else on it. But the good thing is, finally got that thing running. I can start bolting everything back onto it and getting it filled with all the fluids and all that kind of stuff. I still got diff fluid and power steering fluid and all that kind of stuff. The pump's not hooked up right now, so I wasn't running that dry. And I only started without radiator fluid briefly for a second, just to make sure everything's all good. I don't run it for very long like that, but it's got motor oil and it's got transmission fluid, stuff like that. Anyway, I'm just relieved that I finally got this dang thing started. That was giving me fits there, and it all had to do with not the mechanical timing, by the way. It was the ignition timing and setting the distributor. So yeah, whenever setting that, I just double verify, you know, that the number one piston's at top dead center. And I was looking at a hash mark on the timing cover that might not have been from this year motor. So I'm happy. I'm making progress. This thing's coming along, sitting there at full bump on the shocks. So I got a mess going on. I just got this all torn apart. I can start putting it all back together, so I'm stoked. So the way I made this, everything comes out of this hole right here, and the motor could come forward and then come up and out of here if you take the headers and took this off. So what I had to do was check the timing on the front cover. I had to pull the front cover off and check the timing inside to get it timed correctly so that everything's working correctly. But it's easy to pull everything out of here, so now you got to put the harmonic balancer and the water pump and alternator and everything back on the front of this motor, then put the battery back in. The battery tray is fully removable too, so that I can get everything back on here now that I got it running.